You looking outside?
Yeah, last night it was brutal.
Yeah. My dog is not a fan. Sorry. We have Barbara and Kat and Jennifer on Zoom. Anyone else join?
Everybody else is on Zoom, right? No.
Anyone else say anything about not being able to join?
Sam was a maybe.
That's fair.
Understandably, yes. But no, I haven't heard from anybody else.
All right. Give me just a minute to pull up the agenda. Thanksgiving.
Low stress, that was nice.
Stand out dishes.
Ina Garden mac and cheese. Someone made like an Ina Garden recipe mac and cheese. Really good.
I do chocolate balls. It's labor intensive, but I like doing that every year. It's a lot of fun. Kid
Yeah.
used to help, he doesn't anymore, but I still like doing it. Yeah.
Help you eat them now.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
We switched several years ago to, now that we're all grown, everybody has to cook something.
Yeah.
So it's not just my mom doing all
Oh,
the
that's,
things
yeah.
or one person always being responsible. It's everybody has to make at least one thing. Nice, I'll cook all day long.
Yes.
All right, think we can officially start the meeting?
Yeah.
Great, thanks, everybody. Apologies for the late start. We have 2 sets of meeting minutes to approve. Does anybody have any questions about either the October 3rd or the November 7th minutes? I believe both are in the packet.
No.
All right, can I get a motion? Okay, I'm gonna motion to approve, right? All in favor? Great, thank you. My report. I don't really have anything to report. We should hear from the grant that we applied for from the state with Jay and Joe in the next 2 weeks. They're supposed to let us know. So fingers crossed for another couple of weeks, and then we will let people know once we know. I'm assuming you will hear since you submitted it.
Yeah.
Still on the lookout for other grants, things we can apply to. So if anybody sees anything, I think it's probably gonna start back up again as we go into spring more or through the winter. Probably not a lot that have deadlines in late December. This is separate, but we still need to talk about the NEA grant. I think that's
Yeah,
that. I don't know what happened there, but
I don't either. Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out, yeah.
we're back.
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions on the financial report? Don't think we have one in the packet. But I don't think any grants have been paid out yet, so I don't think there's been any changes.
Right, there's no change.
Okay, cool. Committee reports. Grant committee. We have an agenda item later for council comments, so we
Yeah.
can do that later. Holly's not here, so we don't have any other grant committee updates. Cultural asset committee.
Yes, if I could speak a few minutes, because this is my last meeting. I want to talk a little bit, and we can address all of this later on when you talk about future planning. Our storyboards are something that we work very, very hard on in the years past, but they're very, very hard to find. And they're very historical. They're almost dry, if you know what I mean. We talked about doing a scavenger hunt, and I still think that that's something that we should do. But if we do work on that and use the same format, then we have to make sure that it's very accessible and seen by people, or it's just a lot of work for nothing. The other thing is the inventory and survey of cultural assets. And that's something I think we need to do, but we didn't get funding to get somebody to do it. We did do it as a committee in the past, but we gave all of this information on things that needed to be fixed to Parks and Recreation, and I haven't seen that anything was ever done with it. So again, if we're going to do work, I would like to see the work result in something. And that's my report.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you. We will have to elect a new cultural asset committee chair in January once we have any new members who might be joining. So this will be passed on to someone else. I wonder if we should talk to the UMaine professor whose students were doing the Kenduskeag plaques
Yeah,
and see if someone who's taking that class, that's probably new students this year or next year, who might be interested in updating storyboards, because that's a similar.
I just
Sort
saw
of.
something recently, it was on, I think, Instagram or something from the University of Maine about those students and the.
yeah, Liam.
Yes,
Mhm.
I saw something about that recently, that they were.
Yeah, they were
Yeah.
working on them. I think they had some printed versions
Mhm.
at some event for people to look
Yeah.
at.
Yeah, I can talk to Liam and see
Yeah.
if they have an interest in doing that. That's great.
That might be, yeah, a great sort of continuation of the Kenduskeag project.
Mm-hmm.
And he's always gonna have more students who take similar classes or the same class. Cool. I do still want to, I feel pretty strongly that the survey is gonna be better if we get some funding and can pay someone to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than each of us splitting up the list and then trying to get some sort of system together with each of us doing part of a survey. Though maybe that's something we need to consider for next year
Okay.
if we still don't get funding.
Mhm.
Because right, we do have to do it. But I also agree, it seems kind of pointless to do it if then the things that we note that need to be fixed for safety or whatever other reason don't get fixed. So maybe we can also have a meeting with Tracy sometime early in the new year
Yeah.
And see what maybe type of process or timeline, or if there's anything we can do differently so that they're either more receptive to fixing things or
Mhm.
moves up on a timeline or priority.
Okay,
I had an idea for the accessibility. If we were gonna have these kiosks built, you know, that I know the downtown partnership was talking about having them down like in Pickering Square and stuff. That would be great if that could be a QR code that you could scan to all the cultural assets for the city right there on the kiosk. So when people are coming up on the boat tours and stuff, they can come up and say, just scan it and bam, oh, let's go check out this, this and this. And I think that would really be good to work in hand with them so that, you know, it could be more accessible instead of
that's
digging it up
easy.
online and.
yeah, because we're gonna be looking for things to put into that kiosk, so that's perfect, yeah.
Maybe something the cultural asset committee could do in the spring also is just take another look through our website pages, the CCD website pages, and see if it makes sense to reorder any of the content so that some of the links are higher up or more easily found. In a way that like just within the pages that we have, not any like anything that requires developer time, but like something we could work with Sarah on to just kind of update so that
Okay.
things are more easily found. Or if we want a QR code in the kiosk to lead to a few different things, if we can create a page that has those things easily listed. So that they're easily found.
Okay,
Okay,
great.
all right. Barbara, any other ideas? You've got a really lovely sunburst.
I know the sun is. No, I have nothing else to report. Thank you.
Okay. All right, October.
Nothing to report, no meeting, but overdue to have one.
All right. Discussion of ongoing projects and plans for 2026. I think this is something I put on the agenda. That was my idea, and I did not prepare much. But I also think this is going to be an ongoing. Maybe we keep this item on the agenda for a few meetings, especially as we go into the new year. I still want to. I mean, we have a few things that are sort of in progress that I want to make sure we don't lose sight of as we move into the new year. There's the Pickering Square possible history boards. We'll know more about grants and funding for that soon. If we don't get this grant, then maybe we'll try to apply for other grants for that. Then there's the Pickering Square art panels. Do we have an update on kind of a timeline there?
I mean, we were hoping to have the project done this construction year, and as you can see, it's not done. So we're looking into 2026 completion.
Okay. The other thing sort of not really an ongoing project, but I don't want to forget. The bathroom murals.
Yeah,
Do we have an update on those? Because they were finished
right.
and they weren't installed.
There's one across from the library.
Oh, they
Yeah.
were. Okay. We were hoping to have some sort of an opening event, but we never were told when they were installed.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't know when they were put up either.
Great, let's see.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were just all of a sudden there, so yeah.
Is there I'll have to go look. Is there like a label, a plaque, or something that identifies who did the work?
The artist on it?
Yeah, I don't know if she signed the work or if they put
Okay.
anything else
All right.
on there. I mean, I walk by the one across from the library every day, but I've never thought to actually stop and look for that, so. I will look when I walk back to my car later today.
Okay.
Thoughts about some sort of, I mean, having an opening now seems kind of delayed. Also, it's very cold out. I don't think it makes sense to try to plan something for December. People won't come out. What are people's thoughts about how to celebrate that now that they're up?
Maybe as part of the First Friday Art Walk in the spring, we could make that part of it so that people can
Yeah,
Yeah, but we're not starting, or I'm not involved in that until
Oh, yeah.
March.
March.
So
Okay,
Yeah,
March,
so it would be in
but that'd be a great thing to
Yeah.
do, for sure.
let's do that.
Yeah, okay.
And we
Okay.
could ask the artist to be there to, you know.
Yeah.
Talk to people, meet people.
Great. Perfect. If that's on your radar, that's great.
That's fine.
Perfect.
great.
Sarah, can you email the artist and let her know that that's what we're planning, because sorry for lack of communication. And see if she can join, because that would be awesome. And then we can let Betsy know
Yeah,
and whoever else advertises about First Friday.
Me and my friend Jasmine, who owns, Jasmine.
Cool. Great. Okay. I like that plan. That's great. Other projects. What else is something that's on anybody's mind? Is there anything else you think we should be working on? I feel like we only have half the people here, and we are getting some new
Wondering,
members.
For example, the mural by the post office, there was a little bit of graffiti. Did we budget anything for cleanup of things in case anything happened?
I know we talked about it. I remember talking
It
about.
wasn't,
Yep.
it wasn't horrendous, but it was,
Yeah.
there's a problem there.
Sarah, there was money in the budget for maintenance of the bathroom. Yeah, that's right, a little bit.
Well, not in your,
not in this one, but
not
in
this
Tracy's.
one.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah. Okay, can we get it maybe on, I guess it would be Tracy's radar to check it a few weeks before the March 1st Friday? In case we need to ask the artist to do any touch-ups, or I don't know what the process would be for fixing things.
I can talk to Tracy and find out.
The graffiti is actually the one near the post office,
Right.
The mural.
Is that the ground mural or
The spring.
spring mural.
the water, the frog?
Yeah.
The
No.
On Franklin.
Yeah,
Yeah,
to put the fiddleheads
Okay.
inside, yeah.
Is that a city?
I think it was it Bangor Beautiful? And
Bangor
yeah,
Beautiful, but I was only thinking of it that we've approved some of these and helped support some
Yeah.
of these. I didn't know if anybody considered that.
I probably have it in here, I'm not gonna dig through right now, but I
The,
have it.
I know that Annette has fixed some of the, is the one with the fish and the other animals, that one? Or like when you come around to the post office? Yeah. I know she's fixed some of those animals before.
Okay.
I also know the murals we've approved in the last couple of years that were done by Bangor Beautiful, in their budget, they
Right, they
have
had for the
maintenance
Right.
budget.
And this would be in their budget.
Yeah,
But it just got me thinking about how that might be budgeted in as part of a project or not. I didn't know.
yeah. Right, I think if it doesn't come out of our budget, we do always ask that people who are paying for these projects have a maintenance plan and budget for it.
I think that when we had talked and discussed the grants, that they had talked about that as part of, their proposal, that there was money to, for the artist to come back and to fix anything
Yeah.
like that.
And if the bathroom mural is out of Tracy's budget, there would be something in there for possible fixes. For the Pickering Square panels, same thing to consider, but I
Yeah.
think that would also be out of the Parks and Rec budget. Right?
Yeah.
We do also still need, this is also gonna be a January thing, I think we need to form an actual subcommittee or ad hoc committee for the selection of, and you had started doing research for how we're gonna organize the calls for what goes into those panels for Pickering Square.
Yes. I got in touch with a few art teachers and, once we know a size and limitations, I'm happy to help with some of
Yeah, I think that's on hold until they
Yeah.
exist. We had all wanted to look at them before we can sort of put together a call, and it's gonna be easier to post a public call for entries if we have images and know exactly where they're gonna be
Mhm.
and can, I mean, we have the dimensions, but yeah, it's gonna be
Yeah,
easier
it's-
once we have more
yeah.
information, once they're real.
Okay.
And I'm sure the city or Betsy would have stuff they can, and you can put in their interim when they're up until we have some artwork.
Yeah, I know our stormwater engineer wants to put in every once in a while information about the work that they do. So yeah, we could in the interim do some city project things until we get it filled with what you guys want.
If it happens before the end of winter, you could put in like where the warming shelters are, or stuff like that, like information like that, like, you know,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know, just an idea until we do get the artwork and approve it and stuff.
Or we could have something on it that says your art here, you know.
Right.
Right.
You see on billboards, yeah.
Yeah, we can
No,
post
you could
the
literally
call.
do that and put a QR code and like
Yeah.
with the info on
Yeah.
how to submit.
But I mean, they are,
We could redo
they're like this big. It was an odd dimension. I don't remember the exact dimensions, but it was like something like this-ish
I was
size.
picturing them larger.
Was
No,
it like
It was a little bit bigger. but
20 by
yeah.
30? But
Yeah.
it was like horizontal, right?
Mhm.
Going this way, yeah.
Yeah. And so that easily would be space for like even an 11 by 14 or 11 by 13 large printer paper poster for stormwater and information for city and call for art.
Yeah.
Happy to collaborate and share that space once they're
Yeah.
up.
Yeah, I
So
like that.
I think once we know when they're gonna be up, then we can circle back to forming an ad hoc committee for creating the open call. People will get together to we need to write a call, we need to figure out how we're gonna actually do this. We had talked about a bunch of different ideas. And I think we ended up landing on maybe a monthly or 2-month display. And then
Mhm.
cycling through so that we're not constantly changing it out. And to give a few different groups or people the chance to show some work. Okay. Any other thoughts on the Pickering Square things? Any other project ideas?
Question, this is a bigger project and things that, I've asked you about for a long time and asked others about, right? Which is kind of in the context of knowing we lost BAE in the past, the building that Robinson's in is vulnerable. Theaters, Penobscot Theater's losing the DA space, although it's gonna be picked up over here by Rudman Winchell for a while for the youth program. Like, it seems like we're lacking, a performing arts space of a certain size, and just wondering, there's been some talk about some tax increment financing that may or may not be in part available for arts development, so just wondering what role the city might play and this committee might play, like in advancing that dialogue, see if we can come to a solution.
Yeah, when we start the budget process for next year, my plan was to come probably at your March meeting. So what I'll do is I'll put it on the February to plan for it, and then the March meeting to make for this group to make recommendations on, how some of the TIF funds could be spent on cultural projects. Because the law, just so people know, the downtown has something called a tax increment financing ability, where we capture value of properties after they've made an investment, and that value, the taxes and that value get captured, they get pulled aside into a fund that makes improvements. In the past, the improvements have always been somewhat capital improvements within the district. It always has to go back into the district. So the state law changed where you can use some of those funds, as the city may determine, for cultural assets, whether it's capital, operations, programming, anything that the city wants to do in relation to culture, arts and culture. So I think what I'll do is in February, I'll kind of walk through some of the ideas and also walk through the previous year's budget. So you kind of have this understanding of this is where it's been going in the past. There are some hard and fast things that have to be funded. We use it to pay, for example, the bond on the Cross Insurance Center. But then there's also other things that are kind of in flux, and so we can look at those percentages and then in March you could make your recommendation.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And so can you give me a quick tutorial? I don't want to take too much time, but like tax increment financing, like that. So that money's coming from tax dollars, or pool of money is created from tax dollars.
Yeah.
Can that be used? Well, it sounds like it can be used to service debt on something, or at least.
Correct. If
Okay.
there's a bond on like city projects, we use it for that.
You
Yeah,
said
like
it
the
could
cross
also
insurance.
be used for programming and anything that's related to cultural assets.
Yep.
Potentially, could we, in our budget request for city council, make a specific request from that money,
From
from
that.
that fund for paying for a person to do our survey?
Correct.
When we talk about this more in February, is it possible to see more of a list of kind of, or
Yeah.
more of an overview of how much money is in that fund and what it?
Yeah, that's what I said. Yeah, I'll bring in
Yeah.
previous year's budgets.
Okay,
And also the legislation that changed what can and can't be used for TIF.
Okay.
Yeah.
great. Heads up for budget stuff, which ends up going from about February, March through May. I would love more support in how we present to city council and what we ask for and how specific we get. I think the more specific we can get in our requests, and also the more value we can show, the more likely it is that we will get some funding. And yeah, we've been asking for a few years, and so I think we will keep trying to iterate on our process and improve it, and hopefully that will help us get some funding for some good projects.
So I have a question, and then I'll just, kind of close a loop in terms of, hey, one person's thoughts, but like something I think about. I mean, I think people should know that the city's essentially financed the Opera House, meaning it provided a loan that was forgivable to PTC back in the 90s if they met certain criteria around how many performances and, the number of people they employ. And that's, wrapping up in the next 2 or 3 years, I think. So, I bring that up to say, the city should, the city made that happen. And so very grateful for that. And so we should think of it as a community resource, even though it's owned by PTC. That's a space that has about seating for 350. If there's money to do something upstairs, that can get to 1,000. That used to have a large balcony that's no longer used. So, I'm wondering in the big scheme of things, if there was a secondary space that could be used by lots of organizations, including PTC, including BSO, that actually opens the Opera House up for the kind of shows you see at Merrill Auditorium or Waterville. I'm the lone voice at the theater that thinks that, right? When you have something, you want to keep it. But, sharing something I think has more impact in the community, and, the community lacks that other space. So that's something I think about a fair amount.
Yeah, I think the BAA was used a ton.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
if it's really clear that it's missing.
All right, I'll be quiet now.
No, we've got plenty of time. Good. Any
I just
follow-up
wanted to
questions?
continue on this thought, I can have my own thought around this, is that I think that there should be like a multifaceted arts center really right in downtown. Like, I don't know how exactly to get to that, but I think that we can do it. If we can do it, we have the city council basically listening, and I think we can do that. It might take a few years, but if we sort of aim for it, I don't know, I think it'd be a great thing to have in the city.
I agree.
Yeah.
It would be a positive thing for, even for kids coming up here that,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Something to do, something to get involved in that's
Yeah.
positive.
Yeah,
I
and
think
if you,
this is something, sorry, that a lot of the performing arts groups, the smaller ones in the community, have been talking about for years.
Mhm.
That, they need a space maybe 2 or 3 times a year for a couple of weekends to do shows, but they can't, like $10 was really trying to make a go of having their own space, but that means year-round programming and things like that they just weren't able to do as a volunteer organization. But having something like the Waterville performing arts space that then maybe even has gallery space and space for visual artists as well to be working, is something that has been discussed, and that I know there are a lot of organizations that would like to be able to be a part of, that they just can't do with their current funding and volunteer base.
Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely. The Bangor Art Society is trying to do it, they're underfunded, exactly as you described there. They're trying to get something like that together, but they haven't been able to get the money for it yet. So I think that they would be a great thing to include in this as far as visual art, because then they have your local artists that are kind of rotating, and then you have a gallery space or beyond that. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah.
I know the downtown partnership was talking about doing something with the Bangor Art Society, I think it was, and Mixed Main Media, the radio station, and opening a type of welcome center
Yeah,
for the
that
city as
fell
well, and
through.
it didn't work out, but that was kind of the idea, is to have a space where.
Something bigger that it can have a performing
Right,
center too.
right.
I mean, I really think there's that building across from Print Bangor where they have I don't even know, like a brewery or something there. But that building is just sitting there
It
waiting.
used to be a redemption center.
It was.
I think so. It has that cool glass that'll, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yes, that would make a really cool
It would be a
space.
really good space for it. I know a little bit about the building. I think there's like 3 million owed on it or something to even get in there.
The cryptozoology museum was moving in there at one time, and I was kind of excited about that, but I don't know what happened with that.
I think they got a building on Broadway across from the UPS Center.
Certainly seems like there's a need for it, I mean, Waterville did something amazing, though they're having a hard time sustaining it now. And, they had good funding from Colby and from the Alphon Foundation, they might, but they're having a hard time sustaining it now, right? I mean, it just seems like Bangor's really smart about figuring out solutions as a community. I imagine we can figure something, public-private partnership, who knows? But definitely a need, and it is the need for use space.
Yeah, and I really like the idea of the city being involved. And maybe this committee is the entry point, sort of the convener of the different groups that want to be part of this. It's a big project.
Sorry.
No, go
I
ahead.
was gonna say, I spoke to Joe Leonard, he's 100% behind the idea already, so.
Yeah.
Council board. Some money for
I think we can find the money, everyone's behind it, right?
Yeah.
But finding money is not an easy
Yeah.
task.
Right.
Where there's a will, there's a way, maybe.
I wonder if there's an easy way to figure out which buildings exist that might be options for something like this. That either,
Yeah,
right?
I wanna say at the last downtown meeting that Betsy had said something that the Bangor Arts Exchange building is still, it's not, I mean, it's,
Yeah, there's a
think it
lot of
might-
rumors that.
it might be available,
Oh.
yeah.
I don't know, yeah.
Yeah.
don't
I
know if
thought
those
they
are
needed a bunch of
changes.
repairs to make it. For it to
I
be,
think
yeah,
first you kind of have to establish what your goal is.
Yeah.
Before
agreed.
you can kind of start looking at building space, because unless you're thinking, well, if we have this much space, then we can do this, but if we do this, you kind of have to know what you're looking at or what you're looking for before you
Yeah.
can start looking at space.
And maybe that's a good January topic for the commission as we think about like possibly using TIP funds. It's like, what are your goals for 2026? Is it the survey? Is it, what are your goals? And that way, when we go into, making an argument, you've already kind of have some goals in mind,
Yeah.
what you want to try to do.
yeah, and maybe in the meantime, we can, once we have our goals, figure out if we can convene a group of interested organizations, get some people in a room and have a conversation with those who might want to participate in something like this.
And EMDC was willing to facilitate that kind of conversation 2 or 3 years ago, and then I'm not sure what happened, but they were motivated by something that was bigger than an organization, like the creative economy in Bangor coming together. Some theater, $10, dance troops, art society, as a collective, and saying this is what we need. So let's not forget that they would be willing to marshal some resources towards it too.
I do think also, and this is kind of part of a bigger picture discussion as well, that's something that we were discovering when we were talking about it as kind of the performing artist groups in the area, is that you need one person to kind of head things up. You almost need like an executive director or something like that, because it's a big undertaking, and to not have somebody who's organizing schedules and making sure that if the bathroom needs work, that the vendors can come in and take care of that and all of that. You can't do that with a group of volunteers easily.
I think
Right.
it can start as a group conversation of those who are interested, but it would have to turn into likely an actual nonprofit organization. And eventually, if there's an actual space, it would have to have staff of some sort, and an executive director, probably some sort of a building manager, and point people for the resources. These types of projects are so massive that they don't work by committee. I think you need structure. I had a studio once in a building that's very much like this, in Concord, Mass. Happy to share info about that for those who are interested, but it was an old school building that was renovated into a building of artist studios, a theater, ceramic studios, school classes for students, like after school things, summer camps. And right, they're a nonprofit organization with a whole staff and structure and board and all the things. And they've been around for a long time, but they also started somewhere, so
Yeah.
I think there's potential. All right. Just a few small projects for 20.
Major, yeah.
It's so exciting.
It is,
Done that.
it is, yeah.
Yeah.
This town is exploding with art and culture and music and everything. It's ready for this space. It lost a lot when Queen City Cinema Club went out and
Yeah.
and we lost the coffee shop as well at the same time. It just wasn't. It was just like nothing has come back. Red Rabbit is throwing shows, but she's kind of stretched to her limit. So
I think we're ready for it.
yeah.
All right, cool. Any other ideas?
Yeah, I'll say the same thing I do every year. I wanna see the folk festival come back.
Yeah,
So, yes, I would love to see that come back. So, stay tuned.
All right.
I would love, yeah, I think that would be
Enjoy that.
awesome. Potentially early summer, spring before the concert season really gets going. I think that would be a great time. Or the end, like at fall time, you know. But it just, something that everybody can afford to go to, you know. And I think it brings in a lot to the city because people come, I mean, musicians come from Canada all over to come, you know, used to come and play. And it's like, I just think it's a cool thing. You have people, just the whole thing. It was a positive experience for everyone, so.
I know the first 3 years of that were funded by the like bigger national organization that used to pick a town for 3 years.
Yeah.
What happened after that? Cause it continued for a little while, right?
Yeah, I forget where it went after Bangor, but, yeah, I know.
But Bangor
Well, it
kept
became-
hosting it
Yeah,
for
it went from
a
being
few more
a-
years.
connected to the National Folk Festival to
Right.
an American Folk Festival, which was all locally
Right.
supported.
Right, I mean, cause Newport still has their folk festival.
Yeah, that was always separate.
there
Right,
was some kind of local committee, I know, and they had to raise their own money, right? Had to be self-sustaining. And that my guess is that's what happened over time. That was a big undertaking, right?
mhm,
Yeah.
And right, I think it was free for attendees, which means it has to be funded because you still have to pay all the artists. And you have to have all the stuff.
I know there was a whole network of volunteers and stuff that pretty much made it run, you know?
mhm.
But the money dried up, I think is what happened in the end.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to sustain a free event.
Mhm.
If the event itself doesn't have any way of making money, that money always has to come from somewhere else. I mean, people aren't making money, they're just paying money to put it on. But I'd love that idea. If we can figure out a way to make it happen, let's do it. Anybody knows any very wealthy benefactors? Love you.
Still waiting. Oops, I forgot we were being recorded.
All right. We will continue this discussion. Let's plan for the January meeting to have an actual discussion about setting goals for 2026. And it doesn't have to be all the goals, it could be realistic, but if we could spend a little time in that meeting setting some goals, then we can move on from there. Making some more things happen. Cool. Staff updates.
I forgot where I am in the agenda,
We
but
have this staff
Okay.
updates and then council
Yeah.
comments.
might as well launch into that, because
Okay.
that's probably the update. At the council meeting where they accepted your recommendations and made decisions on the grant awards for fall, there were a few counselors that raised some concerns about using the funds for a capital need that's sort of like, for example, the lighting that was given to some theater group. So, because I felt like it was, and I've seen this in other grant programs where they won't fund, sort of purchases of products. It can only be like programming or the art installation itself, that type of thing. And so they had raised their comments that to rethink that, do we want to just limit it to programming, art installations, that type of thing. That was one of the comments.
Yeah, I saw that online. I was wondering if that could be included as like artist materials though, just like an artist would, part of their grant application is saying we need, paint, supplies, that's part of their grant application. So a theater company lights are part of their supplies for their performance, like that would be artist materials, like just a different medium. So I mean, I think it would be okay to include that, just my
agree.
opinion.
Yeah. Also, so many other grant programs are very specific about
Right.
what they fund. I really like that ours supports cultural programming in the city in whatever way the organization deems is most useful to them. It's not a ton of money. It's
Mhm.
not gonna pay, you know, for a new lighting system for a theater. It's not gonna pay to make building upgrades. But I do think it's important to have some source of funding that lets the organizations decide what they need money for. And right, lights still support the organization. You can't really see your kid on stage if the lights don't work. And so this still supports also, right, the event and the audience in watching that event.
Well, and I think like lighting, you know, we think of it as kind of a tool, but there's a lighting designer
That's what
who
I was
comes
gonna
in
say.
and designs around the show and that is a medium for them in the way that set pieces are or your canvases for a painting. And even though sometimes it's hard to see the artistic for somebody who's not a theater person, that lighting designer puts in a lot of work and they're telling a story with that as well.
Mhm.
I used to design lights and sometimes they're best when the audience doesn't notice them. But they
Absolutely.
feel the things that you're trying to get them to feel, and so it's hard. Any other thoughts, opinions? Was this one comment from a counselor, or was this like a
It-
group of counselors, a
There
big
was a
discussion
group
point?
On that one.
Okay,
So that's why I wanted to bring it to you, is that it was more than one had said, you know, we need to think about this. So these are good comments for me, because what I'll do is I'll take these comments and I'll bring them back to them.
Okay.
Probably at the next Business and Economic Development meeting.
yeah, was there anything else that came up?
The other comment, and that was just one member, I didn't notice other counselors feeling the same way, but using funds for an event where alcohol is served, that even though the exact fund, you know, we wouldn't reimburse the purchase of alcohol, the fact that we're giving money kind of frees up the funds by, you know, so that they can purchase alcohol for the event. And there was a counselor that felt like, you know, we're dealing with a lot of addiction issues in the city, and, you know, is this really something that we should be supporting? I mean, I guess my initial thought was, you know, it's hard to have an event that doesn't, you know, I mean, it's just very typical, like, but people choose or not choose to have, you know, a drink at an event, I guess, I don't know.
I think it would have to be a across the board city thing saying that they'd only fund, you know, dry events or whatever. You couldn't just like pick and choose which ones were gonna be dry or not, whether it was an art
Right.
event or a city event, or, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Yeah, that sounds like it might open up a can of worms that they may not be ready to open.
right,
Center, right, the big
Right.
one of their sales.
yeah.
What was the event that, I mean, not to call anything up, yeah,
Alcohol, and we support certain performances, but that doesn't.
what event?
Yeah, which one was it?
The book event.
Even
Yeah.
October,
Oh,
even
because
October, we
the
have.
celebration the night before.
Yeah.
That's the celebration for the authors, that's not the public
Right,
event. That's not the festival that's open to the public, because that's at the library, that's not gonna have any alcohol.
right.
It's the celebration that's part of it, and they need materials for that too.
It'd be good to be aware of it. If it was like really core to the event, maybe you'd lean away from it, but if it's a little auxiliary to the event, it seems like it'd be hard to be a can of worms to get into that.
It also, I think, would preclude organizations from trying to host events with local businesses, Because if you're gonna host an event at a restaurant,
Right.
you can't tell the restaurant that they can't sell alcohol, like it's sort of,
Right.
Well, it's like with October, we had it this year at the Stage Door and there's alcohol. The year before it was at Chimera Coffee and it's, we brought them business by hosting the event there. But if the city says that, like I said, it's gotta be a blank, it can't pick and choose. It's gotta be a blanket statement if they're gonna say, no, we can
Yeah.
only give funding to a dry event because, that brought them business, it brought them business.
And
So
then
it's,
that almost seems like more of a, is the city of Bangor in general only supporting dry events?
Right.
Or is it just because it's arts?
Mhm.
And I think that would have to be something that the city council would then need to decide upon.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, good. This is helpful. Thank you.
but right, if they wanna have a conversation, or if anybody's interested in having a bigger conversation about how we structure these grants and what we fund, maybe an actual conversation at some point would make sense. Happy to
Mhm.
put that on the agenda if some of the counselors would like to join our meeting.
Okay.
But I do feel like we all have pretty strong opinions.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Okay.
That's helpful.
Cool,
Yeah, that's all I have.
all right. Does anybody have anything else? We have 7 minutes. Anything that's not on this agenda? It is Barbara's last meeting. Is it anybody else's last? No, right? You're continuing. No one else is terming out or not re-upping? Okay, great. Do we know if we have any new people joining in January?
I asked Lisa about that. I haven't heard back from her. I don't know, because normally she sends your list to you. I don't know if you've seen it yet.
No, I haven't gotten anything from her
Yeah,
yet.
so
So,
no news yet.
All right, cool. If we haven't had any applications, can you let us know so that we can tell people to apply? Because they could still apply in January and join in February, right?
Yeah.
If we have an open spot. I'd love to push that out if there are open spots. I know a few people who might be interested. Well, then I want to say an official thank you, Barbara, for your years of service to this commission and all of your support and information and history. And I hope you still show up to the things that we try to organize.
I hope to, and it's been enjoyable and an educational experience. So thank you very much.
All right. And with that,